Now that Trump has been found guilty, one of the things we've been talking about, Joy, you were raising this with me in your conversation with Mary as well, is the next step in the process, of course, sentencing. Trump's sentencing hearing has been set. It will be July 11th at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until then, Trump has bail conditions, of course, because he's a criminal defendant. His bail conditions have not changed. He's still out on his own recognizance without bail, so he's free to move about the country the way he wants to. But he was found guilty today on all 34 counts that he was charged with. And each of those counts, in terms of the sentencing, carries with it the possibility of up to 4 years in prison. Judge Merchan is likely, if he does impose any prison sentence, he's likely to impose sentences concurrently. That means that he wouldn't be stacking up 4 years and then 4 years and then 4 years and then 4 years. That would mean that Trump would be serving each of his up to 4-year sentences simultaneously, not as a 136-year string of back-to-back sentences. In terms of whether he actually will be incarcerated, whether he'll end up behind bars in a prison somewhere, that is unclear. It's not necessarily required by any means. Judge Merchan could impose a sentence of probation with no prison time involved. That would still mean Trump would become the first former president required to regularly report to a probation officer. It could mean that the bar for him to be jailed if he committed other crimes in the future could be lowered to the floor. Him being on probation would mean the ability to jail Trump would effectively be instantly effectuatable if he committed any other crimes, which is a weird way to live, let alone a weird way to live as a presidential candidate or indeed potentially a president. Sorry. All of that, how Trump's sentence will eventually physically manifest and restrain him in one or the other, all of that is likely far off. Trump will almost certainly appeal the verdict today. That appeals process will almost definitely push all of this past the election. Being found guilty does not bar you from running for president. But what does Trump's sentencing mean in terms of what actually happens before the election? I mean, practically speaking, it means that Trump will be back in a Manhattan courtroom with the news of these 34 guilty verdicts back on the front pages across the country at his sentencing hearing on July 11th. 4 days after that, on July 15th, unless the Republican Party changes course, that'll be the start of the Republican National Convention that will nominate him for the presidency. Joining us now is somebody who has direct experience with these matters. She's a former assistant district attorney in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, Catherine Christian. Catherine, thanks for being with us on this. Let me ask if I've explained those basics of what comes next, the probation report, the sentencing phase, and what we can likely expect from that phase. Is that all correct as you understand it?
It's correct, except you probably see Donald Trump's lawyers file a motion to set aside the verdict, which is allowed before sentencing. It's under the criminal procedure laws, the 330 motion. So that could delay the sentence because they're going to file it. And then, of course, the prosecution will have a chance to respond to it. And then Judge Merchan will make a decision on that. So that often will delay the sentence. Everything else, the probation, and probation doesn't mean he's getting probation. They're just the ones tasked with doing the report for the sentencing, for the judge, to determine what is the appropriate sentencing. So except for that one little filing of the motion to set aside the verdict, it will go according to how it always is for regular defendants.
And that filing of the motion to set aside the verdict, that's separate from and in addition to the oral motion that we heard in the court today after the jury verdict, where Todd Blanche on Trump's behalf asked for an acquittal.
Yeah. And it's unclear because I was literally in the subway when my phone blew up. He had originally, you recall, moved for what's called a trial order of dismissal. And the judge reserved decision on that. So it's unclear whether the judge finally said denied. But that's also outstanding. But in addition, they can file, now that the verdict is in, a motion to set aside the verdict. And then when that is denied, which it ultimately will be, and he's sentenced, then their appeal will be filed.
In terms of the appeals process and the sentencing process, as you said, the sentencing will go ahead in anticipation of his filing the appeal. They won't delay the sentencing to come at the end of the appeals process?
Yeah, the sentencing comes before appeal. In fact, you can't file your notice of appeal until you have now been sentenced, and it's official. He is now sentenced, convicted felon of 34 counts. And then he files the notice of appeal, and assuming his lawyers, whoever's going to do the appeal, responds on time and gets the filings in, I believe the appellate division, which is called the appellate division first department here, will decide that appeal probably by January or February of 2025. Again, assuming that everything is done on time by the parties. The court is ready, but the parties have to file their briefs and do everything they're supposed to do on time.
If he is elected president in the election in November, and that appeal, as you said, would otherwise in the normal course be expected maybe in January 2025, do you think that his election as president has an anticipatable effect in terms of how the appellate division will handle this matter?
I don't think so at all. Remember, this is state, and they will decide that either the jury was right and your conviction has been affirmed, and then he will get a chance to try to appeal to the higher court. In New York, the highest court is called the Court of Appeals. So they're going to treat him like any other defendant who files an appeal and files everything on time.
Is the appeals process, like the process that we just saw in Judge Merchan's courtroom, one for which the defendant has to be present?
No.
Present, not president.
No, he has a right to, but he does not have to be present. In fact, defendants usually aren't present at the appellate court when their appeals are argued. They have a right to, but he won't be there.
One last specific question on the probation department. They prepare a report. Essentially an internal report, or is it public-facing? That's essentially meant to help the judge and the judge's decision on the sentence. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, it's filed, and it's still kind of old school in the criminal term in Manhattan. It's filed with the court. It's called the investigation and sentencing period. And then the sentencing report was filed. Both the defense will get it, the prosecutor will get it, the court will get it, and ultimately that report is in the file, the official court file.
Catherine Christian, absolutely essential to have you with us here tonight. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.